What is up, guys? Crisis here. I'm back in the midst of Pandaria beta on my Paladin this time, playing Ret. My judgment cooldown is finally reset after 20 days, so I'm happy to be able to actually play this character again, which is going to be fun. I'll be doing some PvP videos, probably one, maybe two. In probably 2 days, I'll probably have those up, 2 or 3 days. But for now, I'm going to be doing a DPS video to show how much DPS I can do. I would like to point out a couple things real quick before I start. First off being I did grab Divine Purpose. It's pretty good. That's really irrelevant to what I was gonna say. That's actually I just hit the wrong key and didn't want to look like an idiot. Um, I do test these videos for all the classes multiple times before I record a video of it, and I have tested Blessing of Kings versus Blessing of Might, and Might is a fair bit better. As you can see there, I have 24.38% mastery. With Might, I have 36.58, so it's 12.3 or 12.2, whatever the hell that was, which is a lot. Like that's a lot for one skill. So I'll be using Christ, I lost my train of thought. I'll be using Might for this video. I believe Might's gonna be probably what you use, though that might change at 90. The other thing I want to say is that this spec, as you're going to see, is really proc dependent, and I'll get into that as I go. So let's go ahead and get started. Whoa, why am I lagging? That's a little weird. So right there, I got a proc that made when I cast Templar's Verdict, I got a proc to cast the second one for free. It cost no holy power, and it acted as if it had 3. So yeah. And then you probably saw there too, I got a free exorcism. Well, not a free one, but it reset the cooldown. And considering it's a 13-second cooldown, that's really good. So, the other thing I want to mention real quick about the rotation here is pretty much if exorcism or Crusader Strike are off cooldown before I cast Templar's Verdict, I always make sure to cast them before I do it when I have 3 holy power. I don't think that made sense the way I said it. It's 3 in the morning, so sorry about that. What I was trying to say is if I have 3 holy power, like right now I can cast it, so I did. But if I have 3 holy power and Crusader Strike is not on cooldown, then I'll cast Crusader Strike to activate the cooldown before I start. Before I use Templar's Verdict. I do the same thing with Exorcism, those 2 skills. And that's just because, well, Exorcism, you can proc a free one, so the faster you cast it, the more likely you are to get a proc from it, like, in the not-too-distant future, which is a plus. And Crusader Strike is a relatively short cooldown, so it's good to use that beforehand. That way it can be refreshing during global cooldown, you have to wait less time. Like right now. That way it refreshes, and then I can just cast Judgment, and it's back up again, and I can cast another Templar's Verdict. And I got a proc for another one. So yay for that. But as you can see, I mean, if you proc a lot, if you proc like a whole bunch of Templar's Verdicts one after another, it's going to increase your damage a ton. So, and if you proc a lot of Exorcisms one after another, it's going to increase your damage a ton. So that's why this spec is really proc dependent compared to some of the other things I've played. And I kind of like it, honestly. I think that it adds something. I mean, it's a lot more fun than playing, say, a warrior, where you just hit the same 4 keys over and over and over again, without ever worrying about anything that's ever happening to you. So in that regard, I think it's a plus. But at the same time, I can definitely see why people wouldn't like it, only because it is so proc dependent. If you're like trying to be like top DPS, it's hard sometimes. You could have like a fight where you just don't get procs. And I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It's completely random. And that can be frustrating from a DPS perspective. But as far as a like fun factor, I find it more enjoyable to get procs and stuff than to just mash the same 3 keys over and over and over again. But that's just me. Maybe other people are different. I was gonna stop this at 3 minutes, but I totally forgot, so we're just gonna go. We're just gonna stop now. There we go. Oh well, I have to use one more, so there. Now we're gonna stop. I have to back away from the target dummy. Okay. So that test was 19.3. The reason I'm scrolled up here is because I actually did another test and it hasn't gone away because no one's talking. So that was 19.3. The previous sets I did was 18.3. That was 19.2, 18.3. If I scroll up, I have 19.3, 18.1, 19.8. So as you can see, it really depends on procs. That 19.8 one, I got a lot more procs than this one. In the 18,100, what would you call this? Not a round, but test. Yeah, test. The test where I got 18,100 was, obviously, I got a lot less procs. So it really does just come down to procs sometimes, which can definitely be frustrating, but I think it's kind of fun. It just adds something else. The talents don't really matter. None of these for increased damage. This tier does, but for what I'm doing here, Hammer of Wrath has no cooldown. That is worthless because you can't use Hammer of Wrath on training dummies. And this one, abilities that generate Holy Power will generate 3 charges of Holy Power for the next 15 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. You'd have to theory craft it, like, and mathematically figure it all out. As far as in like an 8-minute, and if the fight is 8 minutes long, you can use this 4 times. That's 1 minute. Whereas this is your 15% chance for Templar's Verdict in this case to allow for a second Templar's Verdict with no Holy Power consumption. You'd have to figure out is like the 15% chance how many times you use Templar's Verdict in an 8-minute fight, and then like figure out the 15% chance of that. Like 15% of those is going to give you another one for free. And then, yeah. So, pretty much, you'd have to do a whole bunch of math that I'm just not going to do right now because it doesn't really matter. As far as glyphs, really there aren't any, to be honest. I'm using Immediate Truth, which I actually think hurts your DPS. So I don't know why I'm using it, other than it's my PvP spec, and I just didn't bother to change this. But other than that, there really are no DPS glyphs. The only ones that say Ret are not even Ret. Like, well, they're Ret, but they're not helpful. 10% less damage for 10 seconds. That's not, like, you're probably going to use this, but it's not going to help you damage. Inquisition, reduces damage bonus of it by 15%, increases duration by 100%. That you might use, but that one's more like, oh, I'm lazy, I'll just use this. I don't think that will actually help. I didn't use Inquisition at all. I also didn't use this. I don't know why I scroll over this. This doesn't remove. I didn't have movement bearing effects. So never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about here. Oh, I meant to scroll over this. I just missed. I didn't use Divine Storm because I was doing single target damage. I didn't want any AoE at all. And this is actually less damage, like a lot less damage than Templar's Verdict. So single target, you're never going to use that. Even though there is a glyph in here, which is why I mentioned that right here. 5% max health. At level 90, this will probably be roughly 20,000. I'm assuming you're going to have about 400,000 health, and 5% of that is 20,000. So, I mean, will you use that? Maybe, but I don't really see it being useful. Double Jeopardy for single target is worthless. Hammer of the Righteous for red is worthless because you'll never use that skill. So, yeah, I mean, there really just aren't any glyphs. Reduces mana cost. Obviously, that's worthless for red. I'd never had any issues with mana. Avenging Wrath is terrible. You won't use that. Like 2% max health every 4 seconds. I mean, maybe you'll use that. It will proc 5 times, so it's 10%. But again, that's assuming you have 400,000 health. That's 4,000. Oh, this guy, or 40,000. Sorry, I was reading what this guy said. He just wants to test something. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. The glyphs are pretty bad, but that's okay. What does this guy want me to do? Oh, cool. Rogues have an AoE stealth? What? That's awesome. I'm glad I'm recording right now. That's funny. It's huge too. Look at the range on that thing. That's great. Wow. All right. If there's anything you guys want to see for PvP or DPS, let me know, and I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to make it for you. That was really cool. So yeah, with that, I'm out. Peace, guys.